Hey guys, welcome to the Frack and Friends show. Today, my friend and my guest is Mr. William Sadler. Don't worry, I have this.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Boy, that was a lot of cheers.
That was really brief for so many people cheering.
And they all just stopped at the
They
same
just
time.
stopped, like, yeah, someone farted in the room or something.
How's it going, sir? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm, hanging in there. This pandemic sort of kicked everybody in the butt, including my industry. I was shooting The Unholy when the pandemic hit, and they sent everybody home. And
wow.
But fortunate, and then they back and forth with the Screen Actors Guild and the producers and so on. They finally figured out a way to go forward, keeping everybody safe. And if you get a chance to watch the movie The Bubble, it's like a funny look at trying to film something during the pandemic. We stopped filming like in March and had pick it up again in September. And then I shot Salem's Lot as well, which was also during the pandemic. It's not been an easy time for any of us.
I am not seeing a lot of your oldest work in the beginning, but I remember you personally. And look, I was 8 years old. I can tell you where the VHS tape was even bought, but I remember seeing you as Death from Bill and Ted. And that's where, my story with you starts.
That's right.
And it was, I was 8 years old, man. It was 2002.
The Grim Reaper.
The Grim Reaper, man. I mean, what a role. And we'll talk about, Bill and Ted 3 as well, because that was just monumental for all of us as fans of the movies. And it was insane to see you come back into a role all this time later.
No, that was a really, really fun role for me. I had actually created the character like years before that movie was made. I did a sketch comedy show called Assaulted Nuts, and one of the sketches was this woman. Death comes to the door of her apartment, and I was playing Death, and I slapped on this funny Czechoslovakian accent, and it was great. It was funny. It worked for the sketch, and you can still see that actually on YouTube if
I'm gonna have to check this
out. If you care to look for it. I'm not sure. It's from Assaulted Nuts. But when the auditions came around for Bogus Journey to play Death, I decided to use the same accent. I know it's a Czechoslovakian accent because I deliberately stole it from a Czech actor that I had worked with, Jan Triskin. It was everything he said was like that, and it was just great because as long as I do, it was the accent became the character, and as a result, he's constantly tripping over. He's putting the emphasis on the wrong words.
That's right.
It really sort of led the character down this great road. And it was a terrific. That movie came along at a great time for me as well because I was starting to get typecast as villains, really, Die Hard 2 and Hard to Kill and The Hot Spots. All the movies I had done up to that point, I was just, ice cold blood in my veins. And this guy starts out being scary, but then very quickly falls apart and becomes this spoiled bad loser and a petulant little, and then by the end of the movie, all he wants to do is be part of the band. He just wants people to like him.
Yes.
What about my butt? It was all of this. So it was a really nice transition because people saw, he had to be scary in the beginning so that Bill and Ted are like, holy crap, what do we do?
Whoa, Ted,
dude. So it was a really, I had such a good time. I also wore shoes that were like, I don't know if you can see. Let's see.
Oh wow!
They were like 6 or 8 inches tall. They had huge soles on them, and because they wanted me to be, big and scary.
Wow.
And funny.
Yeah.
So between the robes and the shoes and the accent and the 3 hours of makeup, it was really, really fun. The first one was really, really fun. The second one was harder because I was older. I was 30 years older, and it was still fun. It was still phenomenal to get back on a set with Keanu and Alex. It was as if we started we picked up a conversation that we had left off, yesterday. It was as if no time had passed at all in their relationship.
And that's the funny thing about it was like the third movie was, it's been, let's say all this time later, they still haven't written that one song that they were supposed to save the world. And have you seen the third movie and the entirety? It was, look, especially your introduction of, the introduction of you is you playing by yourself hopscotch. That was golden. In because it was you, a lot of times people come back into roles and it's different, it's not completely the same vibe, but the very first scene is you just playing hopscotch. It is amazing watching it because, it's, I don't know, man, it was such a huge thing for it to be released, especially at that time because the world was really dark. That was the first year of the pandemic.
Yeah, that was one of those things. It was, we finished it in the summer of 2019, I think.
Yeah.
And down in New Orleans. And, 6 months later, the pandemic started. And it was, when do people are, no one's going to the theater. What are you going to do with this thing?
It was completely shut down pretty much at that time.
Well, in the beginning, people were just dying. There were portable morgues set up all over New York City, where these big refrigerator trucks to hold the bodies because they were coming too fast. Man. And it was really dark, scary times.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I guess it was a bright a little bit of levity coming along at the right time.
Yeah, because the movie had came out, I believe, in October of that year, and I had immediately bought it on Vudu. Immediately, like before, and I never pre-order, but like the second it was announced to be able to be seen or pre-ordered, I immediately bought it because when I say Bill and Ted, just the movies, now the trilogy itself, like it is like such a pick-me-up, and I know a lot of people are like, they feel the same way, like with Beavis and Butthead or, things like that. But, and a lot of people don't understand
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
I was a huge Ren and Stimpy fan.
Oh,
Stimpy,
man.
Where's that smell coming from?
It was amazing to have that be released and it was just perfection. It was, everyone got to see Keanu shaved, for the first time in like 5+ years. And, and Alex just didn't change.
not much, no.
And by the way, I have a friend of mine. He wasn't able to be here today with us, but he was a double for you in Bill and Ted 3. His name is Brian.
Brian.
Yeah, he's
What's his last name? I forget.
Plando, something like that with a P.
Oh, he's gonna love seeing this.
Yes, he's gonna freak out.
No, he was wonderful. We took a great selfie together, the two of us in the makeup, two Grim Reaper heads next to each other. But he was lovely. We had a great time, and it was terrific that he was there, because it was, like I said, it was New Orleans in the summer.
Yeah.
And under the heavy death robes and dancing, and we're doing the the big concert at the end of the movie. Especially that stuff where we had, and it went on forever and ever and ever. They did a million takes of that, shooting it from every angle and so on. And we shot at night, and it was like 90 something degrees.
Yep.
And 95% humidity every single night. So you were just like, you were just drenched, and the makeup is starting to come loose, and the so I was really glad Brian was around. I was like, Brian,
get in there,
get in there, Brian. And he was just gung ho. He had a great time. I think we stayed in touch a bit too.
He talks very highly about you even today.
Wow, what is he?
He's really, he's a huge fan of yours, and it was such a huge moment in his life to have this opportunity to be deaf, and he kind of went deaf. He kind of went into deaf about things, about like deleted scenes that didn't make the cut. Like said, like the hopscotch was a lot more to it.
Well, yeah, because he's cheating it. He's cheating at hopscotch.
Yep.
And it was the very first take of the very first scene that I shot in the film was that hopscotch moment. And the robes were a few inches too long. Mm-hmm. And so I tripped. I did a little bit of hopscotching, and I went, 1, 2, 3, and then and I caught myself with my right hand, and it sort of bent over too far. I didn't break anything, but
it just really hurt.
But my hand swole up like crazy, and they had to X-ray it and so on. And I think they ended up shooting some of that sequence with Brian because of that.
Yeah, they did, and he kind of said there was it was all deleted. His parts were deleted, but for that scene, I believe it was all deleted. But I mean, look, I had tried getting onto the set to be an extra, but it wasn't this ginormous budget movie. It wasn't a ginormous movie, so there wasn't like thousands of extras needed.
Right.
And that broke my heart, because I've done a few different roles for background, but I've never actually wanted it the way I had for Bill and Ted 3. And I was told no, and I was like, oh. No. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and get Sadler on the show. 2 years later.
Oh, well. Well, here I am. So
I want to talk about something real quick with you, and that's you have played with a lot of what people call the greats. Your movies, let's just say Shawshank or Green Mile, and I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but Hard to Kill. It's Steven Seagal. What is it to you that makes them great? In the sense of how people say, oh, he's one of the legends or the great ones.
I guess there's a sort of sliding scale, because at one end there's like Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins and James Whitmore, and those folks. There's greatness in what they bring, the amount of craft and care and commitment they bring to the set.
Yeah.
is enormous. And if you sit down, if you're going to play tennis with them, you bring your game.
Ooh,
you know,
yes.
Nobody is. There's nobody falling asleep or there's nobody walking through these scenes. If you watch the Shawshank Redemption, you can look at any face around the table, and there's life in those eyes. There's
absolutely agree.
You know what I mean? And it was
Definitely.
true, and it was true all the way through the film as well. I think we all realized that this was a really strong story, even though none of us thought it was ever going to be, as beloved.
It was maybe in an interview or something, but you had kind of questioned him and about who would watch this with the name Shawshank Redemption, right?
Oh, it's a terrible title. There was they tried and tried and tried to find a different title. They made lists of alternate names. A Shawshank sounds like Native American or something. Redemption sounds religious.
Yeah.
Then you find out that it's a 2.5-hour prison movie. It's kind of a hard sell. And when it opened, as opposed to Die Hard 2, or Die Hard, it's in the title. There's you already know, kind of what to expect.
Yeah.
Hard to kill. The Shawshank Redemption.
I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, it sounds vaguely religious or something, and it actually opened in the theaters and then closed. It didn't.
Wow.
It opened and closed in a few weeks. It didn't do a big business when it first opened out in the theater.
Wow.
And then then the nominations for Academy Awards came out, and it was nominated for I think 7, including Best Picture. And then people said, "Oh, we should look at this." I think they put it back in the theaters for a while, but
wow.
But I think America really discovered it. It was also the year that Forrest Gump won Everything in Sight.
That's true.
So people really discovered it on television and as a video rental.
Yeah.
Because it showed up on Ted Turner's.
Yeah.
The Turner movie channel. He played it once a week or something.
Wow.
And people found it. And as they found it, then it started to have this following, and it became, we're all still amazed that after such a difficult birth, that it's grown in stature. People said to me when it first came out, "Wow, that's a classic." And I said, "Nah, it's not." Look at it like 15, 20 years down the road.
Yep.
And if it's still moving people and finding new audiences, and then maybe, you know what I mean? I put the classics that I think of are, the Maltese Falcon and there's Citizen Kane, and they're movies that,
man.
Singing in the Rain.
It's crazy because there's now a lot of classics out there, but not much has changed when it comes down to a lot of the great movies failed in box office, but then they come out on Vudu nowadays, or they come out on a stream. Like for instance, West Side Story, the remake, Steven Spielberg's remake.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's nothing's perfect, but it's a perfection of a film. I mean, it has like a 96% Rotten Tomato. Like it is, pretty perfection. But that one came out last December and failed in the box office.
Right.
It bombed hard. And it makes me sad because, but it's so crazy hearing Shawshank, because that was something I didn't know. Was it didn't do well in box office?
No, it didn't.
It wasn't
didn't
a favorite. That's crazy.
And it was, it's the same movie. It was the same cast.
Yeah.
But it didn't really. Tim Robbins wasn't a big
movie
star.
Yeah.
And Morgan wasn't really a big movie star.
Mhm.
It was the strength of the story. People discovered it. What they fell in love with was the story of the friendship and the
Definitely.
hope, and and it takes you by surprise. It's a ride, and once you give yourself over to the ride, you're on. It's a very satisfying ending.
It is.
You love it when Andy walks into the bank and
yes.
Cashes out the bank accounts and buys a car and drives to Mexico. It's just, it's got a great message. And I was just thinking of Vincent van Gogh. I think he may have sold one painting in his life.
Yeah.
His brother ended up with, an apartment filled with his paintings that nobody wanted, and his wife published the letters that he and Theo wrote back and forth, and they started having shows of his work, and this legend began to build up around this lonely guy, and the legend of Vincent began. But during this, talk about a difficult birth. That was, you could have bought dozens of his paintings for nothing.
That's insane.
While he was alive.
Yeah. Wow.
It was, they're too bright. They're brush strokes. They're what are you doing? What is all this?
and that's what it is, I guess you can say. A lot of people, especially now, but I'm pretty sure it was the same thing in the 90s and 70s, 80s too. But like when people go see a movie, it's really, they're looking for something, whether it's the actor, the actress, whether, it's a horror movie or it's based on a true story, something to grab them. But if you look at the box office, it's kind of a common factor. Many movies that are just perfection of films that might not have that actor, that Brad Pitt, or might not have based on a true story. You got to go see it kind of factor to it. It just doesn't do too well, but those are always the best, especially independent movies. I mean, I'm a huge independent watcher.
Yeah.
I absolutely love A24 films. They are just spectacular.
Yeah. I'm often amazed when I see, Mission Impossible films like that. I enjoy them.
Me too.
I love the Marvel movies. I get off on the phenomenal special effects that they do with the stunts, and I can't even get my head around how they pull off some of the things that they do. And I've been in them.
That's true. Iron Man 3, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But and they're phenomenal. They're a great escape when they fail. When you see a movie that they've spent $100 million on or whatever, and they got big name stars, and they hired the best this and the best that and the best that, and they missed. I always wonder, like, I sit there and pick them apart and think, well, how did they miss? They could afford anything. Why don't I care? I watched the whole movie and I just don't care.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times, largely it has to do with the story.
I agree.
If the story is compelling, I get sucked. But the other part of it that I think is important is the actors. That sometimes you can hire someone, pay them $16 million. But if there's some part of me that doesn't believe that character in that scene, in that moment,
yeah,
I don't I may not even be able to articulate it.
Wow. Yeah.
But I drop out. I don't come along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you put a different actor in that role, and if I can believe even just if I can believe the words coming out of their mouth,
yeah,
I'm along for the ride.
Absolutely.
I only have to believe a little bit, and I'm hooked. They can take me on we can go to Mars. We can go. You can tell me any story you want.
Yeah.
But I have to believe it just a little bit.
Yeah.
And that largely has to do with the acting, I think.
I definitely agree, because when it comes down to, I'm sure you remember this or know this, but Mission Impossible, the original plan was to introduce Jeremy Renner's character, and he was going to take over for Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Like this was like in this would be the fourth one. Jeremy Renner, as great as an actor as he is, he just wasn't Ethan Hunt, and so the audience, people have said this isn't going to work. You can't. Tom Cruise leaving the franchise and giving it up for for this person isn't going to work, because there's only one Ethan Hunt. There's only one Tom Cruise in this world.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've seen, and it doesn't matter what they, how much money you pay this person or
Definitely.
how much they spent on the movie. It's like when Daniel Craig stepped into the James Bond franchise.
Oh, yes, indeed.
I was along for the ride. I was, whoa, holy crap. Because I believed him, because
yes.
when he was in trouble, I believed he was in trouble. When he was hurt, I believed it.
When he was poisoned in that car, dying.
Yeah, exactly. He took me along with him.
Definitely.
And that's just the quality of the acting. And then and it's I'm nothing against Roger Moore or
absolutely
any of the other
absolutely
Bonds, but they sort of let you sit back and watch the spectacle, but it wasn't. But you didn't get sucked in.
Definitely.
You weren't sitting on the edge of your seat saying, no,
yeah.
Don't do you know what I mean?
You lived through the time of these other Bonds. I was really introduced to him, to Pierce Brosnan, and then Daniel Craig.
He was
absolutely
a great Bond.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's who I grew up with. Now, I'll say this. I've seen every single James Bond about 20, 30 times each.
Right.
I love every single person. My favorite, of course, is Sean Connery. But Daniel Craig is a close number one favorite, though. Like, with Daniel Craig, everyone talks about his, like, blue eyes and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, he just embodied Bond, the way the novels did.
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways,
See, I read the novels before the movies started coming out.
I just started reading the novels about
the novels,
5 years ago.
Ian Fleming novels are.
Yeah.
The Bond that he wrote was much more like the Daniel Craig character. He was
definitely,
when he was confused or lost, he was confused or lost.
Yeah.
When he got hurt, he had to go away and recover. He actually got hurt.
Take the bloody shot.
And they got away from it. The franchise got away from it.
Yeah.
When they, for whatever reason, they became silly, and
I would say silly
Hollywood, and
yeah,
and the character, he's in the tuxedo and he never breaks a sweat. He can fight 12 guys and never break a sweat. Well, that wasn't the character that Ian Fleming wrote. The guy Ian Fleming wrote made mistakes, and when he made mistakes, they cost things.
Definitely.
They cost lives. They cost which is great. So you cared about him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it also goes down back to the controversy of when Heath Ledger was casted as a Joker. Like, man, if you go in, you can go into the Reddit boards now from 2007 when the announcement was made, and it's nothing but hate. But I grew up with Heath Ledger. Like he was like my favorite actor since 1999.
Right.
And I owned every VHS, every DVD, every anything about Heath Ledger I owned. And boy, it didn't shock me, but it shocked the world with what he did to the character.
What he did with that role, he made it his.
Yes,
he made him the most dangerous human that ever walked. You know,
definitely.
And holy crap, that's what acting is. That's when it's great, and it serves the movie. It's not just to glorify the actor.
Yes,
it's like the movie works because he is so freaking awful. You know, he's so dangerous that you're honestly scared for the other people who have to deal with him.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden you're watching it. All of a sudden you're connected to this story. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess that's what I was trying to say.
That's really good though. That's a great way to look at it. And you and I definitely have the same kind of views on that. And did you get a chance to see the new Joker movie?
No.
Oh.
No, I haven't yet.
You should take some time to do so. You would be very pleased. It is. I don't say it a lot because I think this word is used way too often, but it is a masterpiece. The craft of the director, the cinematography, the actors, the actresses. It is
phenomenal.
It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind, man.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to actually talk to you about is your experience working on the Blacklist. I'm a huge James Spader fan. It's crazy that it's almost to 10 seasons now.
I found James to be a fantastic actor to work with. Mm-hmm. We're talking about believability, playing these scenes in such a way that people buy it. There was a connection. I never met him before.
Wow.
I'd never met him. Not in the makeup trailer, nowhere. I'd seen him in this and that. I knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have to play people who have this huge history. You know, for 25 years or something, they've been friends.
Wow.
And they have this complicated history. Mm-hmm. They love one another. They're friends. They're old dear friends, actual friends. And it's to his credit, the minute we started speaking the lines back and forth, that stuff started to bubble up.
Wow.
How much the emotions that you would feel if you were talking to your old friend. And he's a great listener. And what I found was that it was incredibly easy to do those scenes. Every time we did them, they were different every time, because we were finding them every time, and we were discovering it every single time you did it. It felt like an improv.
Wow.
And we both know the lines. I know what he's going to say. I know what I'm going to say. But every single time we did a scene, it felt like it felt like an improv. It felt like I don't know what you're going to say next.
Man.
And because of that, you'll say it, I'll hear it. It'll send me it becomes like this tennis match. You know, if he hits the ball over here, I go over here and return it.
Wow.
So you can't decide ahead of time, I'm going to say it this way or I'm going to say it that way. Mm-hmm. You play it. You play it, you let it breathe, and you let it come to life in the room. And he was great at that.
Man,
he is great at that. He's still great at that. But whenever I get to work with an actor who is that good, things just come alive. It's effortless. The scene's over before you know it. And when they yell cut, it's like the whole room is going. And it isn't always like that. I mean, sometimes it's like, sometimes it's more like pulling teeth. It's more like you're playing tennis with someone who's not listening.
Yeah. And what makes it so difficult like that for those instances?
Well, then you have to somehow find a believable path through it. I don't know. I had an acting teacher one time who said, if you need your scene partner to pull out a sword and come at you, and they pull out a safety pin, you have to make it into a sword. And I guess that's a
wise teacher. I mean,
one way, yeah. Peter Stelzer said it.
What I want to do is I want to go ahead and ask you to kind of, so the podcast is all about the 90s and 2000s. So I do want you to kind of like dive into the 90s for a little bit and like tell me your memories.
Before I do, I'd like to mention that I've been recording songs.
Oh, come on.
I've been writing songs for, I don't know, decades and decades since the 90s.
There you go.
Back in the 90s, I used to sing and play in cafes and coffee houses and so on. I would get up and do my songs. And I finally decided to put together a collection of these songs that I've written. And I don't do covers of Bob Dylan songs or any of them. These are my songs. These are my voice. They're my thoughts. They're my humor. And so I'm finally getting together with musicians in a recording studio and get them into some shape so that people can go on Spotify and play. You can get a tiny taste of them on the YouTube channel, William Sadler, The Kitchen Tapes.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that in the link below.
But these are better than the kitchen tapes.
That's cool, man.
These are much. That's me sitting at the kitchen table with a guitar, singing, and telling stories about the movies.
What brought your stance to become a musician?
I grew up listening to music. I grew up loving it. Yeah. I always loved it. I was in a folk band in the 60s.
Wow.
I was in a rock and roll band in 67, 68. I was in a garage band. We were a cover band. We didn't. One of the reasons, and then I discovered acting, and I got pulled away into that. But my love of music was phenomenal, was profound, and went all the way back to when I was a little kid. I've always loved music, and singer-songwriters like Roger Miller and like Funny. I loved guys that could say things with humor, and and I've dabbled in it over the years, and then finally I started writing and was writing more and more songs, and I just decided I need to do something with them before it's too late, and just put them out there. They don't, I'm not expecting to become a singing star. I think people would enjoy them.
Oh yeah, I would.
I guess that's the, if they're kind of folky, they're kind of
that's nice.
They're funny, they're folky, they're but they're all mine, and they're all they all came out of my twisted little head. So
that's really cool. That's exciting, man. What's your instrument? Is it a acoustic guitar?
I play the guitar, but I
thought you were going to say a bass.
No, I play the guitar.
Awesome.
And banjo and mandolin, but and ukulele a little bit, but I mostly play guitar these days.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s. What was your experience of living in the 90s? Like what did you kind of get yourself into or involved with besides the acting career? What were kind of things you remember about, just the whole decade?
I got into politics a bit. I don't generally anymore get involved much in politics. Yeah. But at the time, I was sort of a big Bill Clinton fan. And I don't know. The 90s.
I mean, it seemed like forever ago.
That was the decade before this decade, right?
I don't know. We're in like 2022, so yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it was 2 decades.
It was like 2 decades ago.
It was 2 decades ago.
It was like, let's just say,
30
plus
no,
years.
It's like 3 decades ago.
Oh man, that's true.
I was very busy. The 90s were, for me, I had spent 11 years in theater, doing theater in New York.
Oh, wow.
Off Broadway and then Broadway and so on. And I did nothing but theater for the first 11 years or so of my career. And then I did my first movie and then I began to pursue the movie business, the movie world, which was all in LA. So
wow.
I was offered a TV series called Private Eye, and they said, we'll relocate you. And so after much anguish, we gave up our apartment in the East Village and moved to Los Angeles.
Wow.
To Santa Monica, Venice. And bought 2 used cars and had a little tiny baby girl.
Aww.
And all of a sudden it was on me to make make a living. And they canceled the TV show that got me out there.
Come on.
By the way, after like 9 episodes, they canceled that. So now I have a house that I've rented and 2 used cars and so on. And I began to, push myself out there to audition for film and television. And it was like, hundreds of auditions around Los Angeles that, the number of things that I didn't get is phenomenal.
a lot of rejections, huh?
Oh my God. I had a garage at the time that was full, like floor to ceiling, with scripts, because they used to send the script, right? This was before the internet, when the digital could steal the script and send it all over the world. Then they would send you the script and you would read, for Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs and these, I can't even remember the hundreds of things that I was seen for.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that I got, and the ones that, and then the many that you don't get. And and then I started to like get on a kind of a roll. One movie was leading to another. Directors were asking me to work with them again, and then again, which is an indication that they liked what they were getting. They were they trusted that I could, they knew what they were going to get. They didn't have to worry about, is this guy gonna, can he do it? And the 90s, it was a strange time. We were just, we did a lot of exploring Los Angeles. And, my memory of the night, and then toward the end, it was very busy with work for me in LA, and then finally moved my family back to this farmhouse that we're in right now in upstate New
Wow.
York, just because our daughter was about 13 at the time, and we sort of wanted her to have a different kind of childhood than the daughter of a movie actor in LA.
Oh.
You know what I mean? You go to school
Definitely.
with kids you go to school with they talk about how big their father's agents are, and I grew up on a farm in upstate New York, and and my wife's a New Yorker.
Oh, that's cool.
We wanted some of that grounding from this coast to happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what we did.
So you and your wife have been married for a long time then?
45, I don't know. I think we got married in 78. So
wow.
I don't know how many years that is.
That's a long time.
It doesn't do any good to count them.
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
There's a tiny bit of wisdom. Counting they're like birthdays. You're just gonna get depressed, you know.
And my girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years, but I often don't count it. You know, I don't. I'm like, I really have to think about it.
Don't forget the anniversary. I mean,
oh no, not the anniversary itself.
Don't ever forget the anniversary.
You know, when they say what year, and I'm like, I don't know.
It's another good year.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I'll actually be in New York in about 4 weeks from now. I'm gonna go visit the city. I'm not a New Yorker. I'm from Louisiana, but I love going to New York. I love going just eat some pizza and walk around for about a week straight and do nothing else. And
wow.
And I'm a huge Broadway fan, huge theater fan.
Excellent.
And
excellent.
I just respect the arts, and I respect just everything people do on those stages and the whole productions. And so, I'm going there for I think like 5-6 days, and
nice.
I'm going to go see a show during the day and a show at night. And
dude,
I'm excited.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. I
think I came to New York in 76.
Wow. Yeah.
And I started doing theater, the Shakespeare Festival in the Park, Shakespeare in the Park.
Oh, come on.
With Meryl Streep and Johnny Cassell and
what?
No, it was really. It was
throw
really,
out that name, Meryl Streep.
Yeah, no, she was lovely. But I was in the non-equity ensemble. You know, I was the gay monk who brought out the bench, and I was one of the soldiers who fought at the Battle of Agincourt. You know.
Yeah.
But then it was years and years and years of theater, just theater in New York and around, and the Yale Rep and Trinity Square. And so on. The Long Wharf. You work at all of those places, and then Broadway, and it's a community of. It's funny. It's the only advice I ever give actors these days is do some theater, because you can make the adjustment with your acting. You can go from theater to film.
Yeah.
But if you never get to do any theater, you won't have that bag of tools to bring with you when you start your film career, when you start doing films, because there's no time for rehearsal. There's no film director who's going to work with you for a week on this scene or that scene, or how you're going to approach this. It isn't going to happen. You're going to, like I said, you're going to meet the guy who plays your best friend the morning that you shoot that scene. You have to have made some choices, or else you're just going to walk through it.
Yeah.
Because once they roll the cameras, it's on film forever.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Whatever it was that if you were going to cook something up, you'd better have cooked it.
Yeah.
And theater, I think, because it's all on the actor. There's no second for 2 hours. You're going to create this thing for this audience. And if you can't cook it up, they're not going to get it. No one's going to yell cut.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You can't go back and do the scene over.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You cook it up and you hit it.
Yeah.
And the minute the curtain goes up, you're already hot. You don't use the first act to get warmed up,
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of thing I found helps tremendously when you get to the movies and they don't get to your big scene until 3 a.m. or
yeah.
or you're working with an actress who can't remember her words.
Yeah.
Or whatever, whatever it is they throw at you.
Oh yeah.
You have to be able to hold your own. And
it's definitely different.
Yeah.
I mean, so one of my first experiences in theater or watching theater, like let's just say in New York City, because man, and it's something you probably should have been in because you just remind me of a character in it, but it's called The Iceman Cometh.
Oh yeah.
It was Denzel Washington, David Morse, the guy who plays Glenn in Blacklist.
Right.
Austin Butler. It was just an incredible 4-hour show. 4 hours of Denzel Washington right here. And, the last 30 minutes is him sitting in a chair doing this and talking to the crowd.
The amount of focus and concentration it takes to do something like that.
I've never seen it in my life.
It's huge. It's an awesome, that's an awesome chunk of acting.
Whew.
And by the time you turn around and do, there's a scene in a movie will last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's shot in little tiny bits and pieces, and they're all confused. You shoot the end of the movie first, and then the beginning of the movie. And the muscles that Denzel Washington uses to hold an audience's attention for the entire last 20 minutes of the play or whatever it is, just with his voice is, that kind of, that's the stuff that at the end of the day, I think you bring some of that to the screen.
Oh yeah.
And it jumps out at the screen. That just knocks you over.
And to visually see it in person.
Yeah.
Was, I've loved Denzel since I was a baby, a long time, but this is, him just a couple feet away.
I played Julius Caesar in Julius Caesar with Denzel.
Did you?
In 2005. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was Shakespeare.
I definitely agree with you. Thinking about how, because a lot of people say, well, they get an actor just to get an audience, to bring in an audience for theater.
Right.
But just for instance, just Iceman Cometh or even A Bronx Tale. I've seen that a few times with Chaz Palminteri and I don't know. It's just it's different from watching a movie. And I tell people that all the time. It's unlike anything.
Theater.
Yeah, it really is.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying for one thing. It's, ask anybody who's done it. It's, it's you're working without a net.
Wow.
You know what I mean? There's no falling. Nobody can save you if you suck.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, no, it really is. And at the same time, it's not. It's really there's something really fun and wonderful about at the end of the play coming out and taking a bow and hearing the laughter coming back from the audience, or you can almost hear them holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. that's pretty addictive too. To that's pretty fun as well.
Are you on Instagram or anything?
Twitter.
Okay. Well, I'll
Twitter and Facebook.
Okay. Well, I'll message you on either one of those and tell you what I'm going to see. I'll know tomorrow. I'm literally putting my schedule of every show I'm going to see. I know I'm going to see Come From Away. I saw that in New Orleans, but I'll let you know tomorrow what my actual schedule looks like. But it's going to be nothing but Broadway for I guess 6 days and 7 nights.
Well, have fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sadler. It's great meeting you. And I'll let you know when this episode is it's going to be posted. I'm gonna do some movie magic, first.
Oh yeah. All right. But, you've got something to work with now.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for taking the time and just hanging out, and we'll talk soon.
Take care.
All right, man. Take care.